You are listening to Personal Development Mastery Podcast, where you will find both the inspiration to grow and the actions to implement towards your next level. I am your host, 𝗁𝗁𝗲𝗄, and my mission is to inspire you to stand out and live your best life. I interview thought leaders, authors, entrepreneurs, spiritual teachers, exceptional people who will inspire you to improve your life and offer, through their wisdom, actions you can take and implement. Tune in for 2 new episodes each week and make sure you follow the podcast to get the episodes as soon as they are released. In today's show, I am delighted to speak with Alex Dudgon. Alex, you are a qualified meditation teacher and also a conscious cryptocurrency educator, helping spiritually minded people become financially sovereign and free. You are the founder of the Enlightened Crypto Community, where you help others elevate their wealth consciousness and create abundance in the cryptocurrency space. Alex, what a joy it is to be speaking with you today.
Thank you for the lovely introduction, Agi. Happy to be here, and thanks for having me on.
There are some things that I'm very, very intrigued to discuss with you, Alex, and we'll certainly go there. Before we jump into the crypto and all these different things that you do, I want to talk a bit about your journey, which is fascinating. So, what was your turning point to meditation and spirituality in your life?
Yeah, sure. So I suppose my journey started quite a while back. Once I finished university, I started working in the corporate world. I did my degree in marketing just because I kind of knew there'd be a lot of work in that industry. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. But once I was working that 9-to-5 lifestyle, I kind of, hated it immediately. I found it a bit soul destroying, and that's no disrespect to anyone that does that, because I know other people love it and whatnot, but it just wasn't for me. So I ended up saving up some money and going travelling. I lived in Australia for 2 years, partly just picking up random jobs. I did all sorts, worked in even a laundry at one point, and as I was travelling around and backpacking. So that was a lot of fun. And then, unfortunately that came to a kind of sad ending because my dad was ill. So I had to come back home. And I looked after my dad. And sadly, a few months later, he passed. That was really obviously intense because I was really close to my dad, and watching him slowly deteriorate was quite rough. Well, really rough. But then, after that, obviously, I wanted to find some peace of mind because it was a very kind of traumatic experience, and I'd always been interested in meditation. Part of my travel through Australia, I did 3 months in Asia, through Southeast Asia and India, and obviously meditation and all that kind of stuff's huge over there. So obviously this just felt like a great time to get involved and start practicing. So started off just doing odd little bits, and before I knew it, I was meditating every day, 10 minutes, sometimes half an hour. I was just feeling so much better, and then it just changed my whole life, really. Before that, I was very much like a party boy, just wanted to drink on the weekend, playing sports, didn't really care for much else, but I wasn't kind of fulfilled, if you know what I mean. Didn't have any greater sense of purpose. And it was all kind of coming towards the end because hangovers were getting worse, and say my father passed. It was kind of looking to completely redirect my life. So meditation helped me be more conscious of my decisions. I pretty much stopped drinking, apart from the odd occasion. Just trying to find my purpose and journey in life. And then since then, it's been a wild journey, I suppose, synchronistic events. I'm sure you've had many of those yourself from what we were discussing before. So yeah, and then from there I eventually ended up teaching meditation. I went to India and did a course over there. That was a lot of fun. I've taught workshops, classes, and now
what made you want to teach meditation?
Yes, like I say, it helped me through such a difficult time, and I used the Insight Timer app mainly. So from there, I kind of eventually thought I really want to give this back to people. There wasn't much of that going on in my local area, meditation. There was a little bit of yoga, but not much meditation at all. But the big turning point, I did an ayahuasca retreat as well, as part of my kind of healing process. And within that, I was kind of guided or going deep within myself, guided by myself to kind of go for it. So I quit my job at the time and booked a flight out to India, which started the journey. And it's been really rewarding because, like I say, Insight Timer really helped me through that difficult time, and now my meditations are on Insight Timer, and you get like lovely messages coming through, comments. So yeah, it's kind of really nice to go full circle with it.
Where did you have that ayahuasca ceremony? Was that during your travels?
No, I'd already moved back home.
All right. It's I usually I have spoken with some of my other guests in the podcast, and Peru or the South America generally is a place that they often say. So I thought maybe it would.
Yeah. No, I'd love to go down there and do it in the kind of homeland, definitely one day, but I haven't so far.
What was your? I know it's a difficult, probably a very difficult question, but if there is the biggest shift or realization you had as a result of that experience, what would you tell me?
Yeah, sure. So I'd say the main thing, the first night, I was talking about this with someone yesterday, sounds a bit kind of cheesy, but it's just the complete truth of how I felt. It was like my heart sort of just went opened, and people I didn't like, I was just kind of seeing it from a completely different perspective, you know. Everyone's got their own journey, had their own little traumas along the way that's made them what they are. And it was just like an acceptance and love for myself and other people unconditionally. Now, feeling that in day-to-day life all the time is somewhere where I'm not at the moment, like, you know, 99.9% of people. But it kind of opened the door to that possibility, and that's kind of where I want to elevate to within my spiritual journey.
Thank you. That's beautiful, and it's you said that it might sound cheesy, but I think it is such a common description of similar experience or spiritual awakening, if you want, or whatever you want to call it. This element of love and openness and connectiveness, I think that's how everyone or most people describe it. So I think it's pretty accurate.
Yeah, that's a great word for it. Like, it was just absolutely beautiful. And after each time we sat with the medicine, the next day in the morning, we'd pass around a microphone in this huge yurt. There's like 20 people, and everyone would share their experience, and everyone's experience was completely different. But like you say, that sense of connectedness that you had with everyone in the room, for kind of being brave enough to go through the process and then sharing and being open about it, I found it really liberating. And it just makes you think how the world could be if we were a lot more open and honest with ourselves and each other.
Exactly. And let me try and bridge then what we're saying now with what we're going to talk about as well. So how does one go from being very much spiritually aware, if you want to use that phrase, and meditating and becoming a teacher of meditation? How what was the transition to crypto? How does that fit into your your path?
Yeah, definitely. It's a good question, and yeah, I've been asked this a few times on podcasts. I suppose for me, like a big part of my spiritual path is kind of being free, being a sovereign being, not needing to be dependent on kind of outside forces. So crypto for me is a kind of a sovereign path, liberation from governments, banks, needing to depend on them for our monetary system, something that works for the benefit of the people in general, rather than just a small group of people like our current system does. And I think to kind of grow spiritually, you need your basic needs met. Obviously, there's monks and whatnot, and they get given food and all that kind of stuff. But for the majority of people, that's not realistic. So you need, a basic level of financial security to be able to elevate your consciousness. Because if you're worried about where your next meal's coming from, it's hard to, meditate and grow and all the rest of it. So yeah, I think it's important. I did a talk about this recently. It was kind of comparing Maslow's hierarchy of needs and the chakra system. Wow. So obviously at the bottom, it's all about your basic needs, and you look at the root chakra and the chakra system. It's all about security, safety, and it's really interesting when you match them up, and actually both use a similar colour coding as well. And when you get to the top of both, it's about self-realisation. So for me, yeah, wealth mastery and having that strong base covers those lower chakras and the lower Maslow hierarchy of needs that are needed to elevate.
That's a great answer, and you're touching on something that I believe it's important to discuss further. And in many people's heads or minds, if you want, the spirituality and money are often on opposite sides. So you see often people who are spiritual, and I'm going to be using these words very freely now, so I'm not putting any labels, but so we can understand of what we mean. They don't necessarily have good relationship with money and wealth, or even they see it as something that is not something that is spiritual. And I'm not saying that everyone thinks like that, but I think it is quite a common element. And even more, many times you see people who are deeply spiritual having issues with money. So I want to hear your thoughts about those two sides, and how maybe they're not even two sides, but for some reason we see them as two different sides. So tell me your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I kind of sit on the fence with that. I can see both sides. I don't think it's necessary. I don't think money's necessary for your spiritual path. You could have absolutely none of it and you could become enlightened and all the rest of it. But at the same time, I think you can kind of utilise one for the other. And at the end of the day, money is energy. And when we're doing a lot of spiritual practices, again, it's all about energy, isn't it? So, in my eyes, if I can find ways to utilise my life energy, you can give more, you can have a more abundant life, more freedom to do the things that you want to do. Like, I love travelling. I've got a baby girl who I want to provide for. So yeah, and a big part of spirituality for me is giving. So the more I can give, the better. And you can't give from an empty glass, whatever the saying is.
Yes. Yes, you can't pour from an empty cup or the empty jar. Yes. You said about money being energy. Tell me a bit more about that as a frame of mind. Again, I suppose you are aware that many people don't consider money to be that. They consider it to be something more physical or something else. But in terms of money equal energy, can you expand on this for me?
Yeah, sure. Well, obviously for a lot of people who work a job, they're paid per hour for whatever they do. Mm-hmm. So that's their life energy that has been paid on an hourly rate. As a real simple example. And a lot of the time, obviously I know there's a lot of corruption within money as well. But really, if you have a service that is helping other people, it's what other people want, then they're putting their energy into that and they're giving it to you, sort of thing. So for me, yeah, it's just like free-flowing energy, moving in and out, going where it's most beneficial.
I just wanted to take a short break from this episode and let you know about a new project I'm very excited and passionate about. For me, having a podcast made a tremendous difference in my life's journey, and I know the kind of impact it can have. And that's why I'm so excited about this new project, helping coaches who are ready to reach a global audience and increase their impact by launching and scaling their own top quality podcast, even if they aren't tech savvy and are limited on time. So if you've thought about having your own podcast, but you don't want to go through the time-consuming learning processes of how to create and launch a podcast, of how to record, edit, host, syndicate, and so on, then I got a solution for you. A solution that takes away all the complexity and allows you to only concentrate on creating quality content and nothing else. Go to my website, 𝗷𝗀𝗄𝘆𝗀𝗲 to find out more about my service and to get your copy of my free guide about creating and launching your podcast. Alright, let's jump back to the episode. There was something that you said earlier that was very, in a way, it was terrifying the way you described it. You said something like about our life energy being paid at an hourly rate, and that's, thinking about that can really cause some deeper thinking about what is it that many people do on a day-to-day basis, like the spinning wheel that goes nowhere, and depleting their life energy. I'm using that it was the phrase that you said was very, I think it resonated, and I'm sure it can be a very reflective question for people to ponder on.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. And again, this is another draw for me to crypto because, like I say, I've worked that kind of 9-to-5 lifestyle and that hourly rate, giving up my time for a specific rate. And it's kind of like comes down to your beliefs of yourself and how you value yourself and your own time. And then in crypto, seeing how you can create money much easier. So now I probably only spend maybe 20 hours a week actually working within crypto and focusing on finances, whereas before it was more like 40 hours a week. And then the rest of my time I have much more time to do my meditation teaching, writing blogs, podcasting, the things that I really love to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of interesting that people always say you have to work harder to create more money, but I don't think that's the case at all. I think it's more about working smarter. But first of all, you have to kind of get rid of all your previous beliefs I think a lot of it is around your beliefs, your emotions, your mindset, which is, creating your life, basically.
Can you tell me a bit more about this, especially the money mindset, the mindset related to money, which needs to be reframed? And then I will ask you a few more, let's say, practical things about crypto. But I think this is key in any investing, really, but especially in crypto, which is considered to be highly volatile and speculative, or however else people can call it. But in terms of that money mindset, reframing it, do you think there is something in particular that one needs to reframe in order to transition and look maybe at crypto or investing in a different way? Or even passive income, or all these things?
Well, I think the number one belief you have to start with is that it's possible for you to create financial abundance, because that is a big blocking point. And even if some people think it consciously, if you go deeper into the subconscious, you might find something different. They don't think it's something that they're capable of or something that they deserve. So I think, self-esteem, things like that do come into it. And it's like old beliefs that you have programmed into you from as a child. Things like money doesn't grow on trees, which is ironic, of course, because they make paper money out of trees. And this kind of stuff. So if you've got that imprint in your head and you always think there's a scarce amount of money in the world, and you've got to try and fight just to get your little bit to survive, that's not an abundant mindset that's going to bring in this energy. It's kind of resisting it in a way and being fearful of it. So for me, I could say a big start point is an openness and a real belief that you can create abundance for yourself.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing this answer. I think it's very clear and it's very obvious also that if that is in the way, you can never go to the financial abundance if you think that it is reserved for some special people or for someone else anyway, not you. And you are right, it is programming, it is things that most people carry across from their childhood, and they get reinforced, and it's in a way it's very refreshing and great to see that there are these new ideas that are spread in the last few years. It's more and more and more well known, and I don't know how much crypto had to do with that as well, but I wanted to bring the conversation to the cryptocurrencies since we've been mentioning them. And what I wanted to ask you, Alex, is this, from what it looks, this transition from how we have been using money, or the current system of money all along, to this transition to this new system that is more, it's based on cryptos, it's decentralized. And I don't want to go into technical details or ask you what I'm sure that anyone who wants to know what the blockchain is can find some very good educational material. But can you tell me in a nutshell, that's the only thing I will ask about that, why are cryptocurrencies better than the current system we have with money? If you were to give me their basic advantage, and that's really probably the only technical question I will ask, but I think it's important to for someone to understand why it's such a big deal.
Yeah, definitely. And I think if you ask different people, they'd have different answers because there are so many benefits. But for me, the main one, I think, comes down to trust. So obviously in the past, our whole money system is based on trusting banks and government, and that's your only option. And they're human beings like you and me. And as we've seen time and time again throughout history, human beings can easily become greedy, corrupt, and all the rest of it. Whereas cryptocurrency, takes that trust element away, particularly Bitcoin, because you're putting your trust in mathematics and coding rather than people. It's all there for people to see. I'm not a coder. I can't go in and read it myself, but I know a lot of people that can. So it's completely transparent. No one can fiddle with that. There's a certain amount of Bitcoin that comes into existence every day. Every 4 years, that supply is halved. So at the moment, I think it's 6.25 Bitcoin every 10 minutes. In 2024, that'll halve to about 3 Bitcoin every 10 minutes comes into existence. So this is all programmed in, and there'll only ever be 21 million Bitcoin. Whereas our old system, they can print money at will. We're seeing a lot of hyperinflation at the moment because they've done so much money printing in response to the pandemic. So I think in the UK it's about 5%, a record in the last 30, 40 years. In the US, even higher. So it's just proving now at this time why it's such an important thing.
Can you envision a future where humanity uses Bitcoin or any equivalent instead of the money as we have been using?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I envisioned it before, but now we're actually seeing it in real time because in El Salvador, they made it legal tender back in, I think it was June, July time.
Is that Bitcoin?
Yeah, just Bitcoin. So they actually price things in the shop in sats, which is like, I think it's about a millionth of a Bitcoin or, a tiny fraction of a Bitcoin. They price things in the shop with that. They use something called the Lightning Network. So it's just a QR code. So they pay for things, they just tap that on and automatically it goes through at a tiny cost. Even like street vendors selling ice creams are using it. So, it's a really practical thing. And in a country like that, it's perfect because 70% of their population didn't have a bank account, which is common in a lot of third world countries, which people don't realise. But pretty much all of those people had a mobile phone. So they're automatically banked now because the government have helped set them up on these apps. They even gave them some free Bitcoin to get them started. So yeah, I could just see that spreading throughout the world. Obviously there's going to be a lot of resistance from central banks and governments, and some countries are going to ban it altogether, like China. But I think a lot of other countries will embrace it. I think it'll change the world in a good way, in a positive way.
And personally, I wonder sometimes if it's going to replace the system or coexist at the same time as, maybe not the current financial system that we have, but you know that many governments and central banks are creating their own cryptocurrencies, which, from what I understand, they will not be decentralized. They will be cryptocurrencies, but they will have there won't be that element of transparency that you said earlier. I liked what you said about trust in mathematics, which is it's the universal law, I believe. the one language is the one language that the universe obeys to.
Well, that's it. Numbers don't lie, do they? So.
only if humans tweak the numbers to their advantage. It's the interpretation of the numbers.
Yeah, definitely.
Let me ask you about investing as well. There are so many things I could ask you, but one simple question that I would ask you is does it need to be, or does someone need to have a certain level of knowledge or being especially savvy with computers or mathematics to operate them, or not to operate, I will correct myself, to actually invest and do it in a way that creates an income, since that's what you are teaching and helping others with?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the more education you can get, the better, and the more likely you are to perform better. But even with a small amount of knowledge, there's no reason why you can't just what we call dollar cost average into a position. So, for example, you can even put as little as, £10 a week or whatever it is into Bitcoin. And then even with the volatility, it's kind of cancelling the volatility out because every week you're putting a bit in. So over time you get this kind of average price. If you look at people that have done that over the years, it's turned out very favourably for them. Mm-hmm. Yeah, to answer the other parts of your question, now there's apps on your phone that make it so easy to buy crypto. I always recommend the people in my community to use crypto.com because it's insured, it's really secure, really user-friendly for starters. So yeah, and like I say, even in third world countries like El Salvador, they've been educated on how to do it. So I think it's really open for everyone. And because of the decentralized aspect, there's a saying in crypto that we're all the CEO of Bitcoin. Anyone who is mining or owns a bit of Bitcoin, they own a bit of the network. So it's that kind of, going back to the spiritual side, it's that interconnectedness between everyone.
Thank you. And let's say, Alex, that someone listening to this now gets intrigued. So my question is, in terms of being able to create an income from cryptocurrencies, as you were saying earlier, the two things I want to ask: if someone wants to earn an income from cryptocurrency, first is what kind of capital one needs to have in order, to get back a return or an income that is enough for them. And obviously that's a general question. And the other is what kind of time, how much time does one need to dedicate in order to be able to, because you mentioned something like 40 hours, it's a full-time working on this. Is that necessary, or is it, so can you briefly explain that for me?
Well, yeah, like I say, I'm obviously responsible for the community as well. So I have to gather that 20 hours that I'm putting in is gathering a lot of education, information. So I'm best informed to help advise other people as well as do my own stuff. But you could literally just put, an hour in a week and you could find out what's going on in the space, move bits around. Because to answer your question about making a passive income, there's a number of ways you can do it. You can act as a bank in a way, so you can lend coins to other people and you get paid out an interest for that. You can do what's called staking. So some cryptos use a system called proof of stake. So if you commit your coins into a staking pool, that is helping run the network, and then you get paid out an interest for doing so. And then the third way, which is interesting, once you've made some decent money in crypto, you can put your profits into what's called stable coins. Mm-hmm. So there's one called USDC or USDT, and they're pegged to the US dollar. But the interest you can get on those, you can get 8%, you can get 10%, depending what platform you use. Mm-hmm. And obviously in the bank, you're getting 0.1%, which is pathetic. You're basically losing 5% a year because of the rate of inflation. Mm-hmm. So in 10 years, you've lost half your wealth by putting in a savings account, which is crazy when you think about it.
It certainly is crazy, and hopefully more people see that now. But in terms of time investment, how much realistically time one should expect to give? And I'm not mean the 1 hour a week to start. I mean realistically, let's say that I want to create an income from cryptocurrency, how much time would I need to be put in every week on a regular basis? And what kind of, learning curve is there? Do I need to spend months learning about it and then put time on and on, or?
Yeah, I get the question. I think it's very difficult to answer because obviously everyone has different situations. Some people have kids, some people work longer hours than others. So I think if it's something you want to take seriously, put in as many hours as you want, as you can. Crypto is the fastest adopted technology of the last 100 years. It's growing 140% more users every year. So if it carries on the curve it's on, I think there's 300 million users now. By the end of the decade, they estimate around 4 or 5 billion users. So you can imagine how much wealth will be created in that time. So for me, look at a long-term time preference. Don't try and jump on the hottest coin that you're going to try and make a load of money in a month. That's a good way to lose your money very quickly. Look 10 years ahead. Mm-hmm. It's the end of the decade. Like I say, if you want to take it seriously, put as much time in as you can. Around your job. And then, you never know, eventually you might get to a point where, say, if you don't like your job, you're doing well after a couple of years, you might even be able to quit your job and focus on it full time, or focus on your passion, which is basically what happened to me. Yeah.
Yes, and that changes completely what you do with your life and how you enjoy and appreciate your life by really doing what's fulfilling rather than what is expected of you or what it is that is the usual or the normal. I want to also one quick comment about you said about how it's the cryptos are increasing, I think you said 140% per year in terms of the people who use it. And there was something I read, I think it was on your website, about the putting, I will use it, if I use my own words completely, it would be like riding a wave, that there is a wave that is really rising and maybe it is a vibration as well. And in a way, I feel like we want to be there because it's going to take us or elevate us. So that's kind of more a feeling rather than an ability of me to express and articulate it properly. But it makes sense. I read it somewhere on your website, and I wanted to iterate it in my own words because I really liked this. The high vibrational movement of cryptocurrency.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I can't remember exactly the term I used, but I think I prefer the way you said it there, riding the wave. And it's really exciting. I mean, don't get me wrong, who knows what could happen with it. There's a lot of risk. I don't ever lie about that. It's risky, but if you look at the adoption, for me, I think there's only one way it's going to go in the long term. But yeah, I see it as been a very high vibrational thing. Like I say, the old structures that we've got, everyone knows they're kind of outdated. They're only benefiting a small amount of people, and we need something new. And this, while there's a lot of problems, there's a lot of crappy coins and scams that you have to be aware of. The real top projects that have great intentions behind them, I think we can't underestimate how much it could change the world for the better. Another saying we have in crypto is fix the money, fix the world. And I do partly believe in that. Because the money's all at the top, they then can control everything just below it, media, people's perception of the world, pharma, our health, all these other different areas. Mm-hmm. So we kind of need to redistribute that wealth into a more level playing field.
Indeed, and there are already, you mentioned some things that we could discuss for a further hour about some of them. I want to, before I go to some quick fire questions and wrap things up, Alex, today, I wanted also to ask you to tell us a bit about the people that you work with and what it is that you help them with, in a few words.
Yeah, in the community?
Yes.
Yeah, so I started the Enlightened Crypto Community at the end of 2020, so it's been going just over a year now. And because I became so fascinated by crypto, kind of went all in with it and decided to go for it. I joined an academy myself and another school. So then I wanted to, kind of educate others because I saw it as a great opportunity for people to create wealth. That was half of it. And the other half was educating people on why this is an important humanitarian movement. So yeah, I've been doing a webinar every month since then, where I kind of teach everyone the basics, all they need to know in about an hour and a half. I'm doing one on the 22nd of February, so I have to send you the link to that if anyone's interested. But yeah, the academy kind of goes, much deeper. I think there's over the community, there's an academy with over 40 videos. I've got a media section where I do regular updates because it's a very fast-paced, moving space. Things can change very quickly. There's an area where you can learn all about the different projects individually that I think are good projects. And then there's also a Zen Den, so all my meditations are on there. Like I say, I'm a meditation teacher, and also there's personal development tools in there because for me it all ties in. And that is the more important side, really. But it's going to help you manifest abundance.
And since you brought it up, then it brings me very nicely to my quick fire question. And what does personal development mean to you?
Personal development, I think it means a lot of things. Like, there's so many different areas, and for me, I try and balance out my time and energy, focusing on many different aspects. So, spiritual, growing as a spirituality as being the most important, because I see the material in my eyes as just being temporary, whereas the spirit is boundless and forever. So I see that as the most important journey. And then financial, I see that as a personal development journey. And then kind of, on a personal level, like, meditation and business, that sort of thing. Blogging, podcasting, being able to provide quality information and service for other people, basically. Mm-hmm. But I think it comes in loads of forms, Generally, it's just about being a better person for me, a better, well-rounded person. And like we said earlier, you can't give from an empty cup. So the more you can grow yourself, the more you can bring other people up with you.
The two words that come to mind with the way you were answering was growth and contribution. These very the most important. Let me ask you a hypothetical question as well. If you could go back in time and meet your 18-year-old self, what's one piece of advice you would give him?
I don't really have any regrets. I don't think I'd tell him anything. I think life's panned out how it's meant to. I made a lot of mistakes, but I think they're just lessons, really. I really enjoyed the podcast you did. I forget his name. I think it was John DeMartini, is it?
Mm-hmm. Dr. John, yes.
Listened to a bit of that about gratitude, and it was about being grateful for both sides, the good and the bad. And really, when I look back, I learnt a lot more and grew a lot more through the bad times. So I don't think I'd tell him anything. I think I'd say I'd just leave him to it, and he has to find his own way.
I always want to end the podcast by giving to the listener something actionable, some kind of action they can take as a result of listening to this to, grow or improve or anything that they get inspired to do. So what's one actionable item that the listener can take as a result of this conversation?
I think for me, the biggest thing is to follow the heart. So I think we're always kind of led to believe it's the brain that's the centre of intelligence, but for me, it's the heart. That's where the wisdom is, the inspiration, all the good stuff, and of course the love. So for me, if I was going to say anything to take away, it's follow the heart. It might not always be the easiest path. I think it's always the most rewarding. And if you have a meditation practice, I'd tune in down here rather than always up here. You'll find some better answers.
Thank you. That's that's wonderful, and I couldn't agree with you more, Alex. Share with us how can people connect with you and find out more about you.
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram. I use that quite a bit. Enlightened with Alex on Instagram. I've got a website, www.enlightenedwithalex.co.uk. Like I say, feel free to jump on one of my webinars. It's only £11.11, and you learn all about crypto, and I do a live Q&A. So if you've got any questions, I can answer face to face or over Zoom, not exactly face to face. But yeah, just feel free to get in touch. If you ever want to message me on Instagram or email me, enlightenedwithalex@outlook.com. Happy to talk to people. I love interacting with people. So if anyone's got any questions about crypto or anything else we've talked about today, I'd love to hear it.
Thank you, and I'll put all the links in the show notes. Alex, I want to thank you very much. This has been a very intriguing conversation. There were some elements that I believe they were valuable and even self-inquisitive. I still remember what you said about the life force being paid on an hourly rate, which is very powerful, I believe. So thank you very much for your time, for sharing your wisdom with us, and I wish you all the very best with your mission. Any last parting words?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you, Aggie, for having me on. Really enjoyed it. I think you're a great host, and you've just got a really warm energy about you. So I've really enjoyed answering your questions. And big love to all your audience. Hope you've enjoyed the podcast.
I hope you enjoyed listening and that you got a huge amount of value from today's episode. If you have, please share this episode with someone who you think will benefit from it. If you want to know more about what I do, visit my website 𝗁𝗶𝗄𝗆.com. And until next time, stand out, don't fit in,